There are a lot of shitty people in the world today, and some of them you might be more familiar with, some names and faces you know well enough. One of them you might not know, though, is this guy. This moldy, decrepit potato of a person is Errol Musk, father of Elon Musk, and let's just say if you thought Elon might have been a tad racist, supporting a far right group in Germany or uh, doing a Nazi salute, you know, if you thought that was bad, well, this guy takes it to a whole nother level, all right? I feel like, why don't we just let him speak for himself here?
Concern at the moment and why I think South Africa is a big talking point in the US right now is America in the next 20 years will become, for the first time in its history, a minority white country.
Well, that will be a very, very bad thing to happen. You want to see the US go down? Why? Oh, you don't like cars and electric cars, and you don't like technology, or what is it? You want to go back to the jungle, or?
If the US becomes a minority white country,
Yes.
so there's Latinas, there's blacks, there's people from all different races make up the majority, and then it could be 48% white people. Do you really think the US is doomed if it goes under?
Yes, it goes under there.
Seriously?
Yes, of course.
So I'm just gonna ignore the bit about going back to the jungle. I think that one speaks for itself, but I think the rest of his thesis here is a little flawed. So he's like, "What? You don't like cars? You don't like electric cars or technology? Like, what exactly does he think is gonna happen there? Like, as soon as the white population in the U.S. as soon as it drops beneath that 50% margin, as soon as uh as soon as though the one not white baby is born that just barely puts it over the 50% margin there, all the technology, all the electric cars, all the computers and all that other shit, the phones, it just disappears into the ether. It just ceases to be. All right, like I don't. Is there statistics to that? Does he have any kind of uh inform? Obviously he doesn't, but he's just pulling that out of his ass. I think his so. But it gets better though. Believe me though, it gets better. Trust me.
You see, if you take South Africa, we have a small white population that projects the European culture, or what we learned from Europe.
And oppressed millions of black people
No.
for decades.
How do you oppress? We gave them work, we fed them. They grew from a tiny little group into a massive group. That's not oppression, that's feeding them.
We were over there spreading our European culture. We were giving them the ideas of the Enlightenment. Oppression? I don't even know the name of that word. We weren't oppressing anyone. It is not within our DNA to oppress other people. Man's over there sounding like a racist Reddit mod. Uh, Also, I like the other part there too. Yeah, you put them to work, all right, doing all the shitty jobs, okay? They weren't allowed to be in, positions of authority, okay? For the better part of 50 years, you had laws making sure that didn't happen, but there was no oppression, according to that guy. It's his uh, European culture. I'd like to know what he. I don't want to know what he thinks European culture is. I'm sure he's gonna pull out some 1850s Victorian era textbook that's using phrenology and astrology and shit like that to explain why Europeans are the divine chosen Atlantean race or some bullshit like that. You just can't make this shit up. Except someone did, and it was that guy.
Do you understand? You only grow big if you get fed. You only start at 800 and become 50 million if you get fed. We fed them, for crying out loud. Enough with this nonsense.
But so you understand, because the black population was so oppressed under apartheid.
Well, we never saw this oppression you're talking about.
You never saw it.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, but because
Well, I don't want to
you're
be by
white.
press.
Well, color me fucking surprised about that. You're telling me the rich white guy was not aware that there was oppression going on. And so I want to address the other, I'm not going to call it a point, I'm more like the concept conjured out of the void of his ass before this was that, let me get the pipe here. Well, they weren't oppressed, they were fed. They went from 800 people to 50 million people. You don't get big if you're oppressed. We kept them fed, well fed. You know why the population went up here, my dude? Because the whole world's population went up between the 50s and the 90s, all right? And you know why? Because the widespread use of inventions like antibiotics and penicillin and agricultural improvements and technology in general, the whole world's population was going up by the billions throughout those couple of decades, all right? So at that point in time, even if you're doing the very bare minority of keeping your population alive, all right, even the groups you don't want to be there, you know, if you keep the people just happy enough that they're still alive and they're not rebelling against you, then yeah, the population is still going to go up. That doesn't mean you're doing a great job of running the country. So, obviously at this point, you know, you might be thinking, oh, this guy's a piece of shit, right? He's just, you know, a racist asshole. And you'd be right. Now, how can he get any worse? Well, he could get accused of sexually abusing his children during the 90s. That's how it could get worse. Granted, they're just allegations, so I'm not going to go in and say that it did happen. But it's like, even if we negate that part, I still feel bad for Elon that he had to get raised by this geriatric homunculus, this decrepit potato here, all right, of a person. Because this might be my own bias here, but I feel like generally, if a person is that openly racist, they're not usually a very good person in general. But maybe that's just me. I don't know this guy personally. I don't want to know this guy personally. So the moral here, the main thesis, the main point I'm making here is that this guy's a piece of shit, and I don't see enough people talking about him. So I figure, you know what? I'll take it upon myself. I'll throw some tomatoes at him. You know, make fun of him a bit. I don't think enough people are making fun of a guy who has beliefs that are 200 years older than he is. So, yeah, I just figured I'd make fun of this guy. So, yeah.